Samsung just pulled a play right out of Apple's playbook and dropped their first ever credit card here in the US. And I got news for you. The thing looks kind of solid. There's $200 on the table just for signing up and no annual fee to keep it around. Now, whether it's actually worth keeping past the bonus comes down to one requirement, and it's not your credit score. It's not even about how much you spend. So today we're figuring out if the card is worth picking up, what it really pays, what the bonus costs you to earn, and who the card is actually for. All right, let's get into things. So before we get into what it pays, some background on why Samsung built this card out in the first place. Apple's been running their own credit card since 2019, and the whole point of the Apple Card was never really about rewards. It was about keeping users inside Apple's ecosystem from the phone all the way to checkout. Samsung had nothing like this in the past, so really this was a catch-up play with Apple. So what are the multipliers here? Well, with this card, you're getting 5% back on things you buy directly with Samsung. That's Samsung.com, the Samsung Experience stores, the Shop app, the Galaxy Store, Samsung Claire Plus, etc. Also, an important note here, it has to be directly from Samsung. If you're buying from Best Buy or a third-party site, this doesn't count. You also get 3% back on anything you pay for using the Samsung Wallet, and that's any merchant also. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty big. Finally, you get 2% on streaming, and then you get 1% on everything else. Now, the everything else category is what worries me a little bit on this card. Not a ton, but a bit. That means your grocery, your gas, your rent, your car insurance, restaurants, travel, anything else, that's getting 1% if you're not using Samsung Wallet. Now, a few things here that are genuinely good about the card. First, this is a straight cashback card. It's not a points card. So there's a lot of simplicity here. You don't have to work on figuring out your transfer partner redemptions or trying to get the most value out of your points. You're just trying to rack up as much cash back as possible. There's also no annual fee, which is nice, and no foreign transaction fees either, which means this is a great card internationally. So how does this card stack up against the Apple Card, which is the obvious comparison here? Well, Apple pays you 3% when you're using its card at Apple and a handful of select merchants when you're using Apple Pay. It also gives you 2% on Apple Pay for everything else and 1% using the physical card. And Apple's never had a standard welcome offer anywhere close to $200, so Samsung pays you 5%, 3%, and 1% plus that $200. So yeah, in my book, there's no comparison here. So on paper, this is a real card. Definitely not a gimmick, and I'll be honest, coming in, my expectations were pretty low, but it's legit. Now, to be fair, the Apple Card is a low bar to clear. Tons of people in this space have probably been telling you to leave that card in the drawer for years. Hell, I've been telling you the same thing. Go watch my full video on the Apple Card if you want to know why. I'll leave the link in the description. But that's besides the point. Comparing this card against the Apple Card isn't really the right comparison you want to make. What actually matters here is the opportunity cost of this card versus what you would be carrying instead. So let's start with the $200 that the bonus gives you. So the $200 bonus here is decent. My problem is the spend. You need to spend $2,000 to get that bonus. So a 10% return on spend for the bonus alone. Now, that amount is pretty standard when it comes to welcome offers, but I will say the required spend here is more than I would have liked to see. There's definitely better ones out there. For example, the Wells Fargo Active Cash pays the same $200, but only asks you for $500 in spend. But for a no annual fee cashback card, anything in the $200 to $500 range is pretty normal. So really, the reason for getting this card isn't the bonus like it is with some of the other cards. You really want to be planning to use this card and not just farm the bonus and stick it in a drawer. So with that being said, if you're chasing sign-up bonuses, there's probably other cards and other spend that's worth it more. The main play with this card and why you want this card is that 3%. Because an uncapped 3% back at any merchant on a card with a no annual fee and no banking requirements basically doesn't exist right now. Almost everything that pays you 3% or better has some sort of cap on it. The Blue Cash every day gives you 3% back at online retail, but it's capped at $6,000 a year. The City Custom Cash RIP was 5% back, but it was capped at $500 per month. Robinhood Gold is 3% on everything, but that one makes you pay $50 a year for the gold membership just to keep it. So you get the point here. So an uncapped 3% for free, even with a small condition attached to it, that's rare, and it's a real reason why you should be taking a closer look at this card. Now, more on that condition. So that 3% only pays out when you use Samsung Wallet. Not all mobile wallets, not tapping your physical card. It has to be the Samsung Wallet specifically. And Samsung Wallets only run on Galaxy devices. So if you're an iPhone user, you could still technically get this card, but there really wouldn't be a reason because you can't take advantage of that 3%. But stick around because the math on the tap to pay may still apply to you. Now, for any of those Galaxy users, here's what counts and what doesn't. Tapping your phone at checkout, that's 3%. Paying with Samsung Pay online or inside an app, that's also 3%. And that part matters more than people realize. Like we talked about, pulling out the physical card, that's 1%. But any checkout where Samsung Wallet isn't an option, that's also 1%. So you got to think here, your utilities, your insurance, your gym, anytime you're calling to give your number over the phone, That's all going to be 1%. So now the real question, how much of your spending can you actually run through a Samsung wallet or a mobile wallet in general? And this is where the math gets simple. Say half of everything you buy runs through the Samsung wallet at 3% and the other half is 1%. Average those out and it's literally a 2% catch-all card. So at exactly half of your spend with this wallet, you matched the same card that almost 99% of the credit card world has, which means really that's the break even for this card. If you're spending more than 50% of your total spend on your mobile wallet purchases, then this card can definitely make sense as your main catch-all. If you're spending less, it still could make sense, but you should probably have a secondary catch-all at a 2% for all of your other miscellaneous spend that you can't put on your mobile wallet. For example, let's say you're a Galaxy user who can genuinely push most of your spending through this wallet, say 80% of it. That's 2.6% back, and that'll beat a flat everyday 2% card every single time. So it really comes down to that one question, and you gotta answer it honestly. Can you spend more than half of your spending through Samsung Wallet? If the answer is yes, this has gotta be the top spot for a card that you have to pick up as a Samsung user. If it's no, this is still a fantastic secondary catch-all. You'll just want a 2% card from a proven issuer doing the heavy lifting underneath it. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. If this breakdown helped you out at all, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on this card. I'll see you beautiful peeps on the next one. Peace.